As with most of the United States right now, it's quite hot. Here in North Carolina, it's been in the upper 90s for weeks, bright and sunny. And driving an old car, you can get sweaty, as most of you know that have them. But the 73 Chrysler Newport back here had good working factory AC last year. Of course, it went out, which, whatever. So I bought a kit to replace everything and convert this car to a Sanden style compressor and R134 refrigerant. So this will hopefully allow me to have ice cold air again, and I can drive with the windows up and not get all sweaty and nasty. So I've already pulled the car into my workspace, a shaded workspace, which is the carport of my house, which beats being out in the sun and the gravel or grass. So with that being said, I'm going to get started on this conversion, and hopefully it's easy. Seems like it should be. And I can go over all the tools you'll need, and then we can kind of just see how it goes. I've not done one of these conversions, so it's all new to me. Hopefully it goes all right. Let's get started. This is a factory air car, and here's the original compressor. It's a twin cylinder RV2 compressor, and it is locked up. Actually, while I was driving the car with the air on, and then the compressor locked up and it just ripped the belts off, so I think it's done. Now the kit that I have is going to replace this compressor with a Sanden style, and it's got the bracketry and everything to mount it, and it'll still use both belts. And I'll have to replace the lines, and before doing all that, of course, you'll have to flush the system, make sure you get all the contaminants out of the evaporator and condenser, all this. The dryer will need to be replaced. We'll keep the metal lines here, but the rubber lines will be swapped out with new ones. You have to crimp the lines, so I got a crimping tool, so that should be pretty straightforward. Hopefully this is not too difficult. I don't imagine it will be, but I guess the next thing we can do is look at all the different tools we're going to need, and maybe go over the kit and see what all's in there, and look at the instruction sheet maybe. Alright, let's go over things that we're going to need. Vacuum pump, AC manifold gauges, also AC system flush kit, some flush and clean, and a hose crimper for the AC lines. And then your basic hand tools and such. Adjustable wrenches, screwdrivers, things like that. Alright, with this kit you get a new Sanden style compressor. Got your instructions and warnings and R12 to 134a conversion table and other things. Compressor bracket kit. AC lines with fittings. Right here, expansion valve. Pressure switch. O-rings, maybe some oil for them. Some wrap. This thermostat. Oh, I was like, Mustang. But it's Mustang / other / Ford / GM / MoPar 67 to 73. Clamp. And there's a new Drier in there as well. That's pretty much everything that it comes with. Put this stuff back in here so I don't lose it. Hooked my gauges up to see if there was any refrigerant in the system, and it appears that there isn't. Obviously, if there is, you have to dispose of it according to law and all that. But it looks like mine's all leaked out, so you can continue with removing the components. First thing I'm gonna do is get this compressor off. I just wanna make sure that the new bracket and Sanden compressor is gonna bolt up correctly. I don't wanna take all this off and find out that I can't even use it, and then I've just wasted a whole bunch of time. So let me do that first. So I'll take this loose here for this line. Then I'll probably take this line off here and loosen up the belts and take the bolts off and remove the compressor from the engine. As you can see, the old compressor is definitely broken inside. Got the belts loose, and now I need to take the bolts loose for the compressor and remove it. Battery negative cable is also connected to the bracket for the compressor, so we'll need to remove that. Also want to take note, the max charge for this system is 3 pounds 6 ounces for R12. We'll use that conversion table to get the right amount of R134a to go in the system once we get it all ready to go. Anyways, let's see about getting this thing off here. Another bolt down here. So we'll remove that. Oh, it's got a nut on the back side. Get a wrench on that. That. See, there is a bolt on the front, right in front of the thermostat housing. Get that one off. Currently raining, so if you're hearing storming, that's what it is. I'll go ahead and remove this air cleaner. It's kind of in the way for some of the bolts. Here, there's like a two-piece bracket. So we got this runner here, and it's a separate piece. So I'm going to remove that because I feel like I'm not going to need it on the new bracket. That. This is an intake bolt, so I'm going to put that back there. I'm not sure if the new bracket's going to use any of these bolts. I need to remember to tighten that down. Okay. There's another bolt there and here. So let's remove those. just nice enough to where you can't get your fingers in. These throttle return springs are probably going to have to go to something else because they are on the bracketry for the compressor. Remove those. Get that bolt off. Okay. Looks like we got another bolt here. It's on the coil bracket. That's a 1/2 inch. I believe that's the last bolt, so I'm gonna hold on to the compressor so that thing doesn't swing into the radiator or something stupid. There we go. This bolt back. And tighten it back down. And we'll go ahead and tighten down this intake bolt so it doesn't get forgotten about. Alright, compressor's off. So let's see about the new brackets. So this is the Sanden compressor bracket kit. So we'll open it up, and I guess it looks like there's an instruction sheet in there. And you can see it comes with all the hardware. So we got instructions here. Remove the factory RV2 compressor and original mount brackets. Measure thickness of top boss of water pump housing on driver's side. Note for later use. Stand Sanden compressor on end with clutch facing up. Install large bracket number 4701 onto front of compressor. Yada yada yada. Rear bracket onto rear mounting flange of compressor. Blah blah blah. Place compressor with mounting brackets on top of water pump housing. There are 2 holes on the passenger side of the front bracket. Only one will be used due to various pump housings. The furthest one to the passenger side, elongated, will be used for most applications except for pre-66 and aluminum pump housings. Blah blah blah. And then down here is where the thickness comes into play. So there's some stuff to read. It's the parts list and some handy photos to show how it's supposed to be mounted up. Alright, well, we'll go ahead and get that mounted on and see how it fits. So this is how the brackets are attached. The large one goes on the front, the smaller one on the back, and you can see there's spacers built into the back one, and these two holes line up as such, so keep that in mind. Of course, you can mount this compressor any orientation you want. I think I'm going to try with inlet and outlet on the top, because I have one line going this way and one line going this way, so that makes the most sense to me, at least. And this thing's about 2.5 inches, a little less than that, so I'm gonna go off that spec in the instructions. So going off these instructions, I got the 2.5-inch housing boss thickness without a power steering pump bracket on it. So I'm going to mount the 4.5-inch bolt through the front bracket with a 3/8 spacer between the bracket and the front boss. Then use a 3/8 spacer and two 3/8 SAE washers between the rear of the boss and the number 4702 bracket, which is the back one. And then secure with a flat washer lock washer nut. So let's see how that goes. So this is how it's going to be set up. You got one spacer here and one spacer and two washers here, and that boss is going to be in between them. Typical, dump everything on the ground. Alright, so I've set the compressor on here, and I've installed this one bolt here on the front of the water pump housing next to the thermostat. And now we got to thread the long bolt with the appropriate spacers. So the one 3/8 spacer in the front, which is already down there, and then we put another 3/8 spacer and two washers on that side between the boss and the bracket. So let's see if we can get that to fit. Say that this bracketry this will be challenging. So I had to loosen up this front bracket from the compressor. There was no way you could get the spacers and this long bolt through. So I managed to get the two washers and spacer on the front here all in place with the nuts and washers on the back, which is also a pain to get to. So I still need to tighten this up on the compressor on both sides, and then tighten up the bracket, and hopefully that's in line. If not, that's gonna be maddening. compressor is installed. Hopefully it lines up correctly. Looks like the old belt's too short. I want to see how it lines up. And it seems to be lined up pretty good. It does say 2 Gates XL 7575 belts fit well in most applications. So I guess I'll have to get some new belts. I might could finagle them on if I take the alternator loose, but I'll just get some proper belts. The 75/75 belt is way too short, at least for a 73 Chrysler with a 400, so end up getting a 75/85, and that just barely works. So you can actually go a little bit bigger if you wanted. Just keep that in mind. Be sure to get the right size belt, and you won't have any trouble getting the belts on. Ended up putting the throttle springs just right on the compressor in the unused bolt hole. remove this electronic ignition module because it's kind of in the way. Don't forget to remove the old O-rings, because those need to be replaced. Won't need that. So we got the 2 lines off going to the evaporator. Still got to take the dryer off. And this other hose over here. I'm going to remove the dryer. So unplug the pressure switch there. Looks like there's a clamp down there too. There we go. Little dryer out. This thing's just gonna fry me the whole dang way, it looks like. So when you go to take yours off, just take this bolt all the way off. this line off so we can flush it out. I'm going to reuse this one. This is an AC system flushing tool. You can rent this at most any auto parts store. And basically what you do is open this up and you'll pour some of your flush in there, and you'll screw this back on and you'll pressurize it with your compressor. Then you'll use this gun to go up against the lines of, say, the evaporator or the condenser and spray the flush through it. So we're going to fill this thing up, pressurize it, and start cleaning some things. I'm going to stick the gun into one end of the condenser, and it'll come out the other open end where I have this fancy catch container. And I'm going to put this rag over the top because it's going to come out with a lot of force. Don't really want that blowing in my face. Then I'm going to repeat that same process for the evaporator and that piece of hard line that I'm reusing, which is laying right there. That should have it all cleaned up with some solvent. Then I'll blow it out with compressed air, make sure there's nothing left in there, and then it should be good to go for getting the hoses routed and hooked up. When you drop a socket, it always goes underneath the car, out of reach. So we're putting the new dryer on. Alright, nice and secure. You're going to want to use new O-rings for all the fittings. use the oil to lube up the O-rings and the threads for all the connections. Didn't cut it far enough. There we go. So you only need a drop or two. Put some on the O-ring. Take the protective cap off the dryer here. Put some oil on the threads. Install the line. I have no idea what I did with the adjustable wrenches. Where did I put those? Well, that's usually how it goes. Found them. Okay. That one. Got a new pressure switch that I'm going to install. That goes there on the front of the dryer. Oil. Okay. And I got my hard line. Get an O-ring for that. threads of the fitting. Remove that cap. Dryer is hooked up, pressure switch is installed. That original hard line has been put back in its spot. So now we got to figure out about the rubber hoses, how we're going to get them to the compressor. So one's going to go from here to there, and then this one's going to go from here around to there. And then we got to install the expansion valve over there on the small line. And we're almost there. About to start storming. Alright, put an O-ring on this fitting as well. Couple drops of oil. And that's where our expansion valve is going to go. You're going to want this thing to face the other part, to face towards the passenger side, because this hard line has a 90-degree bend, and that's going to connect to it. And it is now raining, but luckily I'm in my carport. Beats being outside for doing this, or should I say beats being out in the rain. So in the kit is a large hose. So the kit comes with 2 hoses. Both have one end already fitted with a fitting. So what we'll do is we'll hook the crimped ends onto the compressor, and then we'll see how we're going to route our hose, one to the condenser, one to the evaporator over there, and then we'll cut those hoses and crimp on an appropriate fitting so it can be screwed on nicely. So I guess what I'll do now is connect the hoses to the compressor and see how I want to route them. And I got a plastic bag over the open end of the hose so I don't drag it into grease and crap, and let that go into the system, which won't be any good. Put some oil on the O-ring. Might need to take a break. I got the hoses mocked up, connected the one to the condenser, and it goes through the factory location through the radiator support. There's a rubber grommet there to keep the hose from chafing the metal. There's also another tab under here that the hose can hook into to keep it from rubbing on the battery tray. and I got it running here. I haven't crimped it yet, but I'll mark it. So when I pull it off, I know where to crimp it at. Because these hoses do not bend too well if you're trying to bend them the other way that they were crimped. This kit came with a 45-degree fitting already crimped onto the hose going to the evaporator, and due to that I can't get it to face this way to run along kind of where it went from the factory, but there is enough space and it doesn't hit the hood when you shut it to run down and around the back of the motor to the evaporator. And here the factory had a straight fitting, and for some reason they have a 45-degree, which limits kind of where you can put the hose. If I have it faced the other way with the port up, it goes right into the hood hinge, so that ain't gonna work. I did double check to make sure within that orientation my AC gauges will still connect to the port, but I think this is how I'm going to route it. So I'll mark this one as well. They don't offer a straight fitting for the evaporator here. I think it's a number 12 to number 10. I guess you could use an adapter to go from 12 to 10 and have a straight piece. And I guess the same could be said over there. You could cut that hose and get a 90, but I actually think it'll look a little better going this way, be a little more clean instead of having the hoses running along here. So with that being said, I guess I'll go ahead and crimp these hoses, make sure they're in the position that I want, and then I can go ahead and tighten everything up. One other thing is the new pressure switch has a different type of arrangement. The original one was the opposite direction. So I'm going to have to cut this plug off and just add 2 new terminals to fit onto the new pressure switch. Not a big deal. Yeah. And then I have to add the thermostat, so I'll wire that in somewhere here. And hopefully that's all that's left other than tightening stuff down. And I can try to see about getting this thing vacuumed out and see if it'll hold a vacuum, and if it does, then I can go ahead and charge this thing. And hopefully it works. Let's get to it. So here's the hydraulic hose crimper for AC lines. Pull that pin out and this opens up. You have the different size attachments. That's, see right there, number 10. So that's for the number 10 hose, which I'm going to be crimping. I guess I should show it this side. You can see that there's a square peg hole, so you'll just stick that in there as such. And you'll do the same over here. As such. So when you pump it, it'll squeeze the hose, crimp it, or squeeze the fit and then crimp it. So let's see if we can't crimp some hoses. Use the number 8 attachment. Got the hose crimped. let's do this one. Line up my marks. There's the hole in the fitting, so you know the hose is bottom all the way to the end. Then I'll put this thing in here. Close it up. And in here. Such. Verify my marks are in the right spot. And they are. And then we'll start pumping this thing. We'll just pump this thing till it stops. All right, release it. Pin out. And there you have it. A nicely crimped line. Now we can install this. There is a new thermostat that needs to be installed. Now the end of the capillary tube on the expansion valve needs to rest up against this pipe, and then the new thermostat, its end is also going to rest up against there, and then you'll use this clip to keep them in place. Got both capillary tubes in place. Then you cover the whole thing up with this insulating wrap. One thing you need to do is rotate the compressor to get the oil circulating and all that. Do that about 10 rotations. The compressor comes with a modern plug, so you just clip that off and put a standard terminal in there to connect to the original compressor wire. Got my gauges hooked up, obviously blue to blue, red to red, and I've got my vacuum pump going. Got the valves open, so we're going to pull a vacuum for a little bit here, maybe about 30 minutes. And after that, we'll shut the pump off and see if we lose any vacuum. All right, it's been about 30 minutes. I'll shut the pump off. Now we wait about, 30 minutes to see if that vacuum drops. It's at 30 right now. It's been about an hour and vacuum is still holding. So that means we don't have any leaks, which is good. So now we can try charging the system. So I got a R12 to R134a conversion table. The original system took 3 pounds 6 ounces of R12. That's 54 ounces. So we would need between 37.8 and 43.2 ounces of 134a. So one of these little cans here is 12 ounces. So 3 of these cans is 36 ounces. And going off our chart here, 37.8 is the minimum. So we only need a little bit more out of a 4th can to get in this range. So 3 cans go in all the way, then a little bit more out of a 4th. I'm currently just got the vacuum pump running just to make sure I get everything out of it. You know, might let that run for 30 minutes or an hour again. Might not be necessary, but while you just kind of mess around getting stuff ready, it's good just to have it running, just to make sure there's no moisture or debris in the system. Connected 1 can of the R134 to my yellow hose, and I can turn that valve on. There is a Schrader valve there that you can use to prime the system, make sure there's no air in the line and such. So when you have that on, you can give it a little go until it gets the Freon out. Now we'll open up the valve here. Go ahead and crank the car up. And I'm going to turn the air conditioning on. And we're going to let that Freon suck in. So while we're filling up the refrigerant, you're going to open up the low pressure side here, the blue valve. You're going to leave the high pressure closed, but we can still monitor it with the valve open down here. We can see that the Freon's getting sucked in with the compressor on. $39.9, not too bad. So you'll need a thermostat for this system, and it is basically wired into the clutch power wire. These 73 model cars have the compressor just stays on all the time. So someone at some point put a toggle switch under the dash so they can manually turn the compressor off and on. That switch was actually bad. I'm not sure why it went bad, because it was working last time the air conditioner was working, but it doesn't matter. So basically I just cut the wires off that went to that switch that was already in line to the clutch power wire. So I got a wire going from the clutch to the thermostat, then from the other side to the engine harness. So that makes one circuit. There's a capillary tube in here on the suction line, and that will have this cut on and off to cycle the compressor on and off. This system is pretty much done. So now I'm going to have ice cold air, and it's going to be great for these hot summer days. You're probably wondering, how do I know how many ounces to put in when there's no way to tell how much is going in? Well, there is a way, and basically what you can do is weigh the can. So this can is 12 ounces. 1 pound is 16 ounces. So doing your little bit of math, you can figure that if you subtract the weight of the can, you'll know that you'll have exactly 12 ounces of Freon inside here. So when you're trying to put in that last little bit, because we need 3 pounds 6 ounces of R12, that's 54 ounces of 134a. We needed between 37.8 and 43.2 ounces. We needed 3 cans and a little bit of the next one. So after you put your 3 cans in, that's 36 ounces. So we just needed 1.8 more ounces to be at the minimum here. And what you can do is subtract the weight that came out of the can. So you put a little bit in, then you can reweigh the can and see how much has left it. And then you'll know you've put about that many ounces in. So that's how you can do that. I hope that makes sense. Makes sense in my head at least. So when you need to put the little bit in, weigh the can full, let some of the system take some, weigh the can again, and you'll be able to subtract that many ounces so you know you've put in that many ounces. Now don't forget, if you weigh in the can, you have a valve on there to be sure to weigh it the same. Leave the valve on if you have it on. Anyways, that's how you can get the little bit of ounces in, if you were wondering. And don't forget to put your caps back on. Oh yeah. 37.6 to 8, going 45, not too bad. Well, the air conditioning system is back operational on the 73 Chrysler Newport. It's going to be a lot nicer to drive in the hot, sweaty summer weather. So I'm glad that works good. I got this kit from Classic Auto Air in Florida. It's supposed to be for factory retrofits. So if your car had factory AC, it's a compressor and all that stuff to convert it to R134. I will say that quality of stuff was good. The customer support is pretty much zero. There is no tech line. There's numbers on every page saying to call with any questions, yada, yada, yada. If you call it, it'll have a message saying all our techs are busy support helping other customers or whatever it says, and to leave a message and they will call you back. Well, they don't ever call you back. I was just trying to figure out if they sold different fittings that are more closely matching the original stuff. So coming out of the Evaporator, the number 12 line on the factory system was straight, and for whatever reason on their kit they're at a 45-degree angle. So I was trying to see if they made those, and I guess to let the tech department know that it needs to be straight, because maybe other MoPars are different, I'm not sure. But there is no tech department. So I called sales just trying to see about getting different lines to make the hoses route better. And they told me they don't make a straight one. And they don't make anything but 45s basically, unless I wanted to get different lines or whatever. They weren't very helpful. So I got it done. I just did it myself. Whatever, it works. So hopefully this video does have some helpful things so you can put it in yourself if you have one of these kind of cars. I'm sure all 70s C bodies are very similar. That being said, all in all, the kit was okay. It was kind of pricey, but I was kind of hoping it was like direct bolt in. So I, probably could have pieced it together a little cheaper, but whatever. Now I know it's not direct bolt in. And they source most of the parts from other vendors anyway, so you can probably find all the stuff yourself and save a couple $100. So that's probably what I'll do next time instead of trying to get one of the kits, because I guess you pay for the kit in terms of getting everything at once and simplicity, and it's supposed to be easy, but that's not always the case. Anyways, I hope this video is informative, and now maybe y'all can have cold AC in your cars too. Anyways, see ya next time.